welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria and today's video is going to be my TBR jar picks my October TBR. So I'm so glad that we're in this kind of spooky season and the autumn months because this is always my favourite time of year to read. It's usually my favourite genres are just perfect for this time of year as well, and yeah, I'm just so happy that we're at this time of year now. So if you haven't seen a video like this before, it's basically just me picking out some prompts from my TBR jar. So prompts like pick a book with whatever in the title, pick a red book, pick an orange book, whatever it may be, and letting that dictate my TBR for the month. For the past few months I've been using this, and some months have been more successful than others in terms of me actually getting to reading the books, but I like to see them as piles of possibility. You know, I don't have to be too rigid with the TBR because I know for most people we are mood readers by and large, and for me it is sometimes difficult to stick strictly to that TBR. So yeah, I don't go too strictly by it. These are just kind of trying to help me whittle down. I have quite a big physical TBR, so just to try and help me whittle that down so that I'm not kind of picking from hundreds of books. But yeah, today we will pick probably, I think, around 8 prompts. I think that should be fine. I've got a couple of rereads that I will be doing in the month of October. So I'm doing a whole Sarah J Maas reread with some of my friends on Bookstagram. So I will be doing, I believe it's the tandem read between Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms for Throne of Glass. And I'm pretty sure that takes up most of October for us. So they will be on my TBR. And then I do have a couple of books that I want to get on my TBR as well, which is Dawn of the Cursed Queen. And this is the 3rd book in the Book of Azrael series. So I've read the first 2 books, really liked them. So I want to get this on the TBR for October just to finish off the books that are out so far. I think the 4th book comes out next year, but I want to try and finish this series so that I'm kind of caught up before that one comes out. And then I want to read Lord of Shadows, and this is the 2nd book in the Dark Artifices trilogy within the Cassandra Clare Shadowhunter world. I think this is like the 4th trilogy that you read in that series, depending on which way you read it, but this is pretty much the 4th trilogy within that series. And I read Lady Midnight, which is the 1st book in this series, last month. Absolutely loved it. It was 5 stars for me, so really highly anticipating the 2nd book, so definitely getting this on the TBR for October. There's probably a couple of other books that I'm forgetting that I have on my kind of permanent TBR, and ones that I definitely want to be getting to in October, buddy reads that I've probably signed up for. In fact, speaking of buddy reads, I have actually signed up for a buddy read with my friend Tiffany to reread Jane Eyre as well, because October is the perfect time to read that. So if you haven't read that classic, this is definitely a good time of year to read that one. But other than that, let's just get on to the TBR prompts and pick the books that I'll be reading for October. Okay, so let's go in for the first prompt. Hopefully it's one that we haven't got before. Oh, okay, a mystery or a thriller. You can't really see that. I don't know why I hold these up every time. They're too small. Mystery or a thriller. Okay, this isn't a genre that I generally read, so I am going to have to look through here to see if any of these kind of fit that description. I know that there is one on here definitely that does. So that's the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. That could fall in there, but I want to see if there's anything else that can fit in there, or if that's our only option, then we'll be picking that one. Okay, so after looking through my TBR cart, this is literally the only one on there that would fit that description. So this is one we're going to add to the TBR for October. I believe this one centers around a girl who her mother went missing years ago when she was a baby, and they're basically doing a documentary about her disappearance. And one day on set, basically her mother turns up. So it's kind of unfolding the story around that, where she's been, how she ended up where she is now. So yeah, it's one that's been on my TBR for quite some time. I think this came out just before the summer, so it's probably the best time to be reading this around spooky season. So yeah, it's book number 1 for the TBR. Now we'll move on to book number 2. So that's a book with a title you love. So let's see. Okay, I think the one that I'm going to go for, because it's one of those ones where it's the most intriguing. It doesn't really give you too much about what it's going to be about, but you do get that kind of sinister feel from it. And it's called My Throat an Open Grave, and it's by Tori Ballavino. And this one, I believe it kind of centers around, it's almost like a labyrinth retelling, where there's like this Lord of the Wood that everyone fears. I believe our main character, her little brother goes missing and she has to make a deal with him, and a bit of a horror story. So again, this is perfect fit for the October month, and it's a bit of a shorter one, so hopefully it'll be easy to kind of fit in between some of my other reads. But yeah, I think this title just makes you think, what is this book going to be about? So yeah, I'll go with this one for a title that I love. Okay, prompt number 3. This is going to be the whole TBR cart, and that's a book that matches the current season. So I think what I'll do to kind of narrow this down, because obviously there is fantasy on here and kind of more spooky reads and things like that, but I think I'll try and keep it to kind of because it's October, vampires, witches, and that kind of thing, because it really matches the kind of current season and the holiday. So let me just have a look and see what options I have. Okay, so obviously because my cart is made up of books for this season, I do have quite a few options. So the first one is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. And this is one, again, I've had on my TBR for quite some time. I actually have all of her books physically, but I haven't read any of them yet. So this is a high contender because I really do want to get into her works just to see how I feel about her writing. I've heard it's really beautiful. I've heard these books are great as well. So this is very high on my list. This is potentially the one I might pick for this one. I then have A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, and this is kind of a retelling or a reimagining of Dracula's Wives. So again, Halloween, this is going to be perfect for this season. I have Now She Is Witch by Kirsty Logan, and I believe this is kind of a revenge story or kind of a feminine rage, but she's a witch as well. And it's one that I've had on my shelves again for quite a long time, one that I'm really interested in reading, but I just haven't picked it up yet. So this could fit that prompt as well. I then have The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Moran, and this one follows on from the Serpent and Dove series. So that was about kind of a witch and a witch hunter. This one I believe centers more around vampires, and it is one that I've had on my TBR for, again, around a year now, because I wanted to follow on from reading that series. I really enjoyed that trilogy, and this is kind of a spin-off series that Shelby has written, so this is also quite high. I think at the minute it's between this and The Nature of Witches, but let's see. Let's look at the other options. I then have Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid. So this one is, again, I think it's another kind of feminine rage story about a woman who has been severely mistreated her whole life, but there is kind of witchy and scary vibes in there as well. So that could be another good read. And again, because it's witchy, it's perfect for this time of year. And then Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So I believe in this one, witches haven't been existing for quite some time until kind of three sisters come along and they start to rediscover some witchy kind of roots. And I've heard this one's really good. I really like Alex E. Harrow's writing. I've read Starling House by her. Really loved the writing. The plot for that one wasn't quite for me, but I really loved her writing style. So hoping because this plot is something that appeals more to me, that it would be a hit for me. So again, this is a potential for that prompt. So from all of those options, I think the two that I'm left with is The Nature of Witches and The Scarlet Veil. And so hard between these two. I can't pick which one I think I want to read more. I think I'll go for this one just because it is one that kind of follows off from a series that I've already read. I think this is a bit more of a romantic-y type of thing, so I might need some of that to break up some of the other reads that I'm going to have on the TBR. So yeah, I'm going to add this one for the book that fits the current season prompt. And prompt number 4. Oh, a book with a male main character. So most of mine usually do have female main characters, so I'm not quite sure which one of these will fit in there, but I do think I have 1 or 2 on here that I could pick. Okay, so I've picked out 3 that could be perfect for that prompt, and the first one is Fishes by V. Schwab, and this follows Victor and Eli, who are kind of classmates within college. They both have a penchant for adrenaline-inducing activities, so near-death experiences, and they're kind of toying around with some supernatural discoveries, and the story kind of starts 10 years in the future when they're actually enemies, so they're not friends at all at this point. I believe it's kind of a time jump back and forward to see how they got to that point. So this is a high contender because it is kind of a dark academia almost feel as well, so potentially this will be the one I pick. I do have A Man Called Ove on here as well because I do want to read something from Frederick Backman. This one I think I could read at any time, so I'm probably going to keep this on the TBR for even in winter. It might be a good winter read as well, or just outside of spooky season. I could read this really any time of year, so I think I'll put this one back on the cart. And then the next one is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, and this one has a male main character, so Ivar is one of the main characters. This is kind of centered around a library that has almost like a portal magic or something like that in there, and yeah, I've heard this is really good. I've actually, well, to be fair, I've seen mixed reviews on this one, and I do think these are quite chunky books. So we've got this one and the second one in the series, whereas Vicious and Vengeful are a bit shorter. So I think just by process of elimination, the one I'm going to pick for this prompt is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Okay, and now for the 5th prompt. So we've got a book with a white cover. Okay, I've got a few on here that I could pick up. So I've got, that's a bit more cream. I've got Uprooted by Naomi Novik, which is down the bottom, so you can't see that on camera. So actually, let me just put all the ones out that I have that have a white cover. Okay, so I have 4 books that I could choose. So I do have A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, I don't really think I want two V Schwabs on my TBR in 1 month, so I'm going to put this one back, but it was an option. I then again have The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, so maybe the world is telling me to read this in October, so maybe there's a high possibility I could be picking this one up. I then have Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and I've heard this is really good. It's kind of centering two princesses who are kind of taking different paths within their lives, and I've just seen a lot of people say that they really like this. I've had a kind of up and down experience with Brandon Sanderson's writing, so I'm not too sure if this is one I want to read just yet. I might keep this for kind of the winter months. I don't know why. I think kind of higher fantasy is something I really like to read around winter time, kind of between December and February. Don't know why. There's no reason really for it, but I think I'm going to keep this for that time period. And then the last one, I don't really think it's white. It's kind of more cream. Could I get away with saying that this is white? I don't think so. I don't think so. So I think I'll have to put this back on the cart, even though I would have really liked to read this month. So that does bring us back to The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So again, I'm really excited to read this one. Her writing style I really enjoyed in the past, and again, it's one that I've had on my TBR for quite some time. So excited to finally get to this one, and it's a perfect witchy read for October. And the sixth prompt. Oh, a book with a pretty cover. So, I mean, most of these do have really pretty covers, so let me just get a few of my favourites and then we'll pick from those. Okay, so I think I've picked my favourites out of the covers that are on there from memory anyway. So one of the first ones I've got on there is one I actually put on my TBR cart in my unhaul video, so if you haven't seen that yet, definitely go and check that out. But it's The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. And this one has an absolutely stunning cover. I mean, it gives all the October creepy vibes. So again, this is probably a perfect time to read this one. This is the Waterstones paperback edition, which has some sprayed edges. So that's quite a high contender. It's an absolutely stunning cover, so definitely fit that prompt well. I then have Lake's Edge by Lyndall Clipstone, and this one, I mean, you just need to see it. You can see how beautiful it is. It's one that I've always really loved. And again, just I think it's going to give those perfect kind of creepy October vibes. I think this one, I just love the colour of this one. So the teal with the pink, and it is a bit more of a fluffy read. So The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. And I think this one just kind of follows an undertaker and a marshal. And it's almost like a You've Got Mail situation where they're writing notes to each other and they don't know it's that person. And they're actually, in normal life, they're quite unfriendly with each other. So again, that could be a good one to get on the TBR just for a light and fluffy read. And then the last one, which is the one I think I may add onto my TBR because it's one that I've been highly anticipating and kind of waiting for this season to read it, because I've been told that the autumn season is the best time to read it, and that's The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and that cover is absolutely stunning. I do have a special edition of this one as well, which is stunning, but this is the one I have in my TBR cart. This is probably the one I'll read from my paperback edition, and yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one I'm going to pick. I was kind of already prejudiced even though I picked the books out, but I just think this is the one I really want to read, and that cover is absolutely stunning, so it perfectly fits that prompt. Okay, so we're now on to our seventh prompt. Oh, why did I do this to myself and put these prompts in? A book over 500 pages. Can I pick one of my ones that I've already picked? I'm sure there's a few in there that are over 500 pages. So I'm just going to have a quick look here and see which ones are, because I actually don't think I have too many on here that would be over 500 pages. Some of them will be in and around 500, but most of these look like they may be slightly shorter. So let me just try and figure out which one is actually over 500 pages. Okay, so I think I've picked off all the ones that are over 500 pages, and that is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I've also got City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and this one's going to be a reread. I have read this one, so it could be a good one to get on the TBR because it's not one that I'm going to have to put too much brain power to. It is just going to be a refresh, so this could be a good option. I then have Warbreaker, again, by Brandon Sanderson, and I'm putting this back. I don't want to read this month. I'm just going to put it back. Then I do have Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, and this one's a kind of, I believe it's a fantasy romance based in Sicily or something like that. So this could potentially be one that I could get on there. I do think that I have the audiobook for this one as well, but this one's actually over 600 pages, so that is pretty long. So I think what I'll do is I'll put on my City of Brass reread for October. If I get to this, I get to it. If not, it's not too much pressure. It's not something that I feel I'm going to have to get to. So yeah, I think I'm going to put this on there just as kind of a, if I have time, I'll pick this one up. And if not, it's not too much of an issue. Okay, and now for the eighth and final prompt. A book with a person on the cover. So for this one, I know exactly which one I'm going to choose, and it's The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. As I was saying, it's one that I really wanted to get in my TBR. This gives me the perfect excuse to read it this month. So yeah, the last book I'm putting on the TBR is The Nature of Witches. Okay, so just to recap on all the books that we're putting on the TBR, we've got Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, The Dawn of the Cursed Queen by Amber V. Nicole, The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin, City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, Vicious by V.E. Schwab, The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Moran, My Throat an Open Grave by Tony Ballovino, and The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. So I feel like we've got a good variety there. I feel like we've got some magical realism, we've got some fantasy, we've got some dark academia, we've got some vampires, fantasy romance, a bit of horror in there, a bit of thrillers as well. So yeah, I feel like we've got the perfect mix in here, and all of them fit in for spooky reading and spooky season so perfectly. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. There's 10 books here that I'll hopefully be getting to. I mean, usually I do read in and around that remit, but with my rereads and depending on my mood reading, whether I'll get to them all is another question. But yeah, they're just a pile of possibilities. They don't have to be too rigid or anything. So yeah, I'm really excited for the choices we've made for October. Let me know what you've got on your TBR for this month and what reads you're getting to. Do you kind of read to the season, or do you just read kind of what comes to you at that time? For me, I'm very much a seasonal reader, so romance and things like that I'll definitely read more in the summer, whereas fantasy and some of those more darker themes I definitely want to read in the autumn and winter. Let me know what you have in your TBR for October in the comments below. If you like this video, do remember to give it a like, and if you want to see more from me, remember to subscribe. I'm posting 2 videos a week at the moment, and it's videos like this, so picking my TBR, it'll be reading vlogs, book recommendations, all good bookish things like that. Other than that, thanks so much for watching this one. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye!